All right. Welcome everyone to day two of Road to Millions. So, yesterday we covered growing from the very beginning, even before the beginning of my business, the rock bottom moments, all the way into six figures, which is where we left off yesterday. So, today, as we're jumping in, we're going into six figures to multi six figures. We're talking about that shift. So, yesterday, where I left off was starting to outgrow the social media coach role. And today we're going to be talking about how I shifted and resisted at first into being a business coach, the wealth energetics lessons, different lessons around launching my $0 launch, as well as launching my academy, which ended up being my most successful program, other than my mastermind, but my most successful like course, and it generated over $400,000 in revenue. The first couple launch fails and then opening up the floodgates. So this is a bit of a like twisty, turny journey. And then I'm going to be talking more about integrating masculine and feminine energies, especially as the towards the end of the first call, I was really getting into burnout mode. I was really feeling done. And so how I started incorporating the energetics, the mindset, that work that I really needed, the inner work, and how I integrated that into my business. I'm also going to be talking about scaling to huge, like the biggest cash months that I had had at the time, which was 30K months, 50K months, and then and it went beyond that as well. But then there was a moment where sales really plummeted to like $1,000 months or less than that, no new sales. And then how I brought it all back after that. And that is one of the key lessons here too, especially as we're talking about growing into multi six figures. It isn't that same energy of like, can I start this? Is it going to work? Is it going to take off? Are people going to buy it? It's more, okay, now I've created success. It's almost like this energy of like, can I replicate it? Is it going to be as successful as it was the first time? What if I don't hit the same numbers? What if I don't surpass what I had already created? What does this mean about me if I feel like I'm falling behind? I feel like I should be further along by now. Am I going to be able to do it bigger than I did the first time? Like a lot of those thoughts are very common at this time. So, I'm going to talk all about this as well as diving deeper into I mean there's so many things that I'm going to be covering today, but I'm just going to pick up where we were yesterday. So, I've been a successful social media coach. This was at the height of my business at the time. Clients were pouring in. At one point, I had like 13 one on one clients. I was offering social media coaching, social media management, engagement services. I did it all. Like, whatever my clients wanted me to do, I did it. And I realized over time that I didn't love how I was doing it. So, just to put a timestamp, this is around like the beginning of 2021, like January, February. I'd been a social media coach for nearly a year. It had been 8 months and I had hit six figures. So that was around like November time of 2020. And now I was nearing that second year in business. But I felt like I was constantly working. I felt like I was constantly glued to my laptop. My eyes started hurting. I started getting vertigo and dizziness. I was staying up late. I was still in school taking care of Alaska, but all of the other time I had, I was working in my business. So I was either posting, selling, working with clients, posting some more, on coaching calls, sending after session notes, which is something I did at that time, running sales calls, sending emails, like any type of messaging. That's what I was doing. And I loved that I was making money on my own schedule. Like, I love that I was creating my own offers. I love that for the first time, I was creating this level of freedom, right? I could work from anywhere, money was coming in. However, I was still operating from survival mode. So I still hadn't fully integrated and calibrated to the level of wealth that I was creating. I was also resisting the pivot from being a social media coach into a business coach. I was still in major people pleasing mode. Whatever my clients wanted, I gave it to them. Whatever client wanted to work with me, I would say yes. And also, the social media coaching, here's the thing, it was doing really well. Like it was working really well. And I think there's something to say about walking away from something, even though nothing is quote unquote wrong on paper. I had thousands of downloads on my freebies. My posts were shared all over. Many of my posts about social media engagement went viral. I had this rule called the 30-30 rule, and it was gaining traction. People were using it all over. I had a Facebook group I ran at the time. This was like, I mean, Facebook groups are still popular, but it was very, very popular back then, in 2020. So at that time, I had like 14,000 people in it, which is more than I'd ever seen for a group like that for content creators. Each week, I was recording an episode of Tiff's Tips. I was sharing social media strategies. So it was gaining traction and it was doing very well on the outside. But on the inside, it was the same thing over and over and over. People wanting to grow to 10,000 followers. It was wanting to make more money with their brand posts, helping clients spruce up their media kit, and doing engagement for them on their account. It felt like over time that even though I was making money, my soul was not on fire for this work. Like it wasn't on fire like it was in the very beginning. And it felt similar to working my day job. So eventually I got to a point at this time where it was like, if one more person asked me about hashtags again or another follower boosting strategy, I was going to scream. And I'm sure I did a lot of screaming at this point. So I knew I had to make a really big decision, and I made another huge leap. This was at the height of my business. I was making the most money I'd ever made, right? Like putting this into perspective, where I was when I started my business to where I am now, having lost my day job, not sure if I was going to be able to pay next month's rent. And then here I was about to cross multi six figures within the first year. I wanted to switch gears. So I decided at this point, what felt more aligned to me was working with entrepreneurs, business owners, leaders as a business coach. And up until this point, right, I was a social media coach working with other content creators. I had no coaches following me that I knew of, or it was very, very few and far between. Um, And again, to put this into perspective, I was a blogger and influencer starting in 2014, 2015. I grew my entire following as a beauty blogger and a lifestyle blogger. So I partnered with brands, I shared my life, I went to influencer events, I met other influencers and bloggers. That was my whole audience. Those were the people. It was people who wanted to follow me, and they were just like private accounts, people who just wanted to follow an influencer or a blogger, or it was other bloggers that I had met, right? So it was like an audience of either creators or followers. And I built like beautiful relationships with my followers, right? But they also weren't clients like that. They weren't necessarily like the people I wanted to work with. So now I wanted to target an entirely new audience that was not even in my world. I remember at one point, like posting to stories and scrolling through the list of names and feeling so discouraged right before I made this pivot, because everyone was like content creator, lifestyle blogger, private account, like all these people that I just felt like were not my ideal clients. They were people who were consuming influencer content and passionate about beauty, or they were other creators. And at that point, I'd only ever worked with creators. So this is really important because this comes up time and time again in our businesses, right? You're going to be pushed into your next level and your next evolution. And the more we resist it, the more draining, frustrating, resentful it starts building and festering, right? It's literally like being in a relationship that you know that you've outgrown. We've all experienced this to some level, right? Where we're like, this is not for me. I'm gonna drag it out and drag it out and drag it out and drag it out. And then over time, you just get angrier and more testy and just like frustrated, and everything bothers you, right? It's just not in alignment for you. You're just like, you're just avoiding the thing that you should be doing or is aligned to do at this point. So This was a really illogical decision. On paper, it didn't make sense. It was not the practical, profitable thing to do. I was making a lot of money. I had sales calls booked up to like 2 months ahead. I had a roster of coaching clients as a social media coach. And again, I was about to hit multi six figures in my first year of business. And here I was ready to completely pivot. So, even though I was still calibrating to that level of wealth, and I'm going to talk about that in just a moment, in a little bit right after this lesson, I listened to that ping because I knew if I didn't honor that, a part of me knew it would just be so much worse in the long run. Like I was already burning myself out. I was already draining myself through what I had built and how I was running it. And so I knew something had to shift. So here's the lesson. This is the first lesson for today. When you're in the process of making a big leap, like a big jump, a big move that is deeply in alignment with you and your intuition, right? There's always going to be some type of obstacles. There's going to be some type of challenge. And that's because if it was easy, it wouldn't be a big, risky, bold move. Like you would just do it. You wouldn't think about it. You would just do it, right? It would just happen. Just like when I first invested in my very first business coach with the rest of my savings, and I had no idea if it was going to work or not. Like, I didn't know if I was going to make next month's rent or not. I had no savings. It was the middle of the pandemic. I didn't have any money coming in. I'd just gotten let go from my day job. I was a single mom. My daughter was home doing school on Zoom. I was doing college on Zoom. It made no sense. Any logical person would have been like, that's crazy. Don't do that. That's insane. Why would you do something like that? It's irresponsible. It's crazy. Don't do it. Right. But looking back, I decided that I would be all in. And there were very real challenges in my reality. Like, I literally needed to keep staying in this bedroom that I was renting or else I had nowhere else to go, right? So in this situation, I was losing out on clients. I was literally taking clients off my roster and telling them I couldn't work with them anymore. I was literally saying no to money and leaving money on the table. I closed down that group that I was running that I started charging like a premium membership for. I closed that down. I let all of my social media clients and engagement clients go. So at this point, I'd worked with like 95% content creators, and I think like 5% of them were service providers or shifting into business owners. I think I kept like one or two clients that were shifting into like business, right? Because that's what I wanted to do. And here's the thing with making a big, bold leap. You have to lead with your energy and your decision, okay? Not just energy. You have to decide. Decisions like a declaration is so powerful. You have to decide with your energy, like you have to set the precedent, right? We talked about that towards the end of call number one. You set the precedent, and the universe knows how to come in and support you, right? Then you surrender. After you've made the decision, you call in the support that you need, then you surrender. You're like, okay, I don't know how this is going to happen. I have no idea where things are going to go from here. I have no idea. And yet I'm going to release it because I know that this is like I'm letting it go. I'm letting go of it. Right? In a sense that like I still deeply care, but I'm not deeply attached to the outcome. Right? And not the thing where you're like, okay, universe, I promise I'm surrendering. Right? Do you see me? I'm surrendering, like hoping it'll catch on, like cross your fingers, hopes that the universe will think that you're fully surrendering. But really, you just want to get what you want in the time frame that you want it. So when we're not fully surrendering, it's like we're taking this big leap, but we're looking backwards, right? We're like checking to see if it's working. We're attached to the outcome. We're needing it to produce a certain result on a certain timeline, right? And because energy is everything and everything is energy, when you're taking a big leap and you're looking behind you, right? It's the energy of being like half in, half out. Like you've decided that you're out before you even jump, right? Can you imagine that? Even in the perspective of like physical momentum, it's actually so much more dangerous going into like if you were actually to jump from like one ledge to another, or you're like going in and do some type of like physical motion or trick. If you're going into it kind of like bracing for impact, or just kind of like going in and then deciding halfway that you're not going to do it anymore, you're going to fall. You're going to get hurt, right? Like if you're going into it hoping not to get hit, like you're somehow going to hurt yourself because that momentum isn't fully there. Versus if you just like it could be a big jump, it can be something massive, but if you go in with all your energy, that gives you a much better like statistic, you have a much better run towards landing, right? And so when I first invested that little last bit of savings, it was the fuel I needed to make this work, right? For me. Again, I'm not promoting this. I'm not like endorsing this. I'm not like, don't do that. But it was me deciding that I was going to play a bigger game. It was almost like I was playing a game with myself. And I knew that this is what I needed to do in order to make it happen, right? I could have gone in a different direction, but this is what I wanted. And because I knew that I wanted skin in the game, I wanted to show up for myself in a way that I had never done before, right? Like this was me drawing a line in the sand moment and going, I don't want to work for anyone else anymore, ever, ever. I don't want to go back to having a boss and living in an office and having to request a raise every year for a dollar or whatever. I remember being so excited one year when I literally got a dollar raise. I think it was from like 18 to $19 or something. So the most I ever made was $19 an hour. And I was never on salary. I never worked like, yeah, it was just, I was always part-time. I was always working based on like how many hours I worked. I was always working like little chunks of time. And then I had a bunch of odd jobs. So I remember the first time my boss was like, "You're gonna get a dollar raise." I told everyone. I was like, "Oh my God." Right? I knew I just didn't want to live that life anymore. I did not want that for me. And so I knew for myself that I had to lead with this energy. And yes, it was scary. Yes, it was vomity. Yes, it brought up all of these emotions. And I was like, oh my God, is this going to work? What's going to happen? I knew that I needed it in that moment because that fear of the risk was not as big of the fear as the fear of going back and having to work for somebody and going back into a rhythm of doing the same thing over and over, which I already knew at that point I hated. I knew it for a long time. I would drag myself to work. I drag myself up the stairs. I would get to work and just sit in my car. Sometimes I would cry on the way. Like I was exhausted and I didn't want to keep doing it, right? So I knew that something needed to shift. And so for me, it was investing, yes, obviously into mentorship, which I know I needed at that time. Like, thank God that that little like version of me knew that I needed mentorship because there was no way, like, it would have taken me just so much longer. Um, Years and years and years and years to get to where I was if I wasn't investing in mentorship. But it wasn't just investing in a mentor and getting like the transactional, like, the receivables, right? They were going to coach me, they were going to help me, they were going to help me build my first program. And we did all that. But it wasn't just that, it was the energetics behind it. It was like I needed something to tell me that it was like, come hell or high water, let's make this happen. Come hell or high water, you are somehow going to pay for next month's rent through the money in your business because no other money was coming in at this time. Any type of social media partnerships all came to a close because of COVID. Everything else, I couldn't drive for Lyft anymore. I couldn't do DoorDash anymore. The whole world was shut down. There was no way I was going to make any money unless it came from this business that I was intending to start. And I did. The second month in business was a 10K month. So if I had not led with that energy, I'd still probably be contemplating while working a day job, finding another job, whether or not I can go all in. And sometimes you have to just take that leap. So continuing on with the story where we are right now, I had hit over $200,000 by the time I finished my first year in business. It was March 2021, and I was feeling so many emotions. I was so excited. I was so grateful. My friends threw me a surprise party, and it was like one of the highlights of my life. Like, I walked in and I was like, what the fuck? And they were all there. They were like, surprise. And we had these big 200K balloons that my best friend had gotten for me. And I was so grateful. I was so excited. And yet I was also feeling guilt. I was feeling unworthiness. I was feeling still scarcity and a little bit of survival mode, right? Because up until this point, right? Imagine it's like you're operating in survival mode for all these years. And then I start making money, right? And you just put it on top. But I'm still in survival mode. The money doesn't solve anything, like it doesn't fix anything. I'm still operating from that lens at the very core, at like the root, right? So I knew, like, I felt like I was making this money, but I had to work so hard in order to keep it. I didn't feel like I knew how to hold it. I still feel like I was operating from like this mass scarcity of like, is it all going to go away? Right? If I make one wrong move, like, and I was making this big pivot, which again felt really illogical, but I knew I needed to do it. Was it all just going to be like a fluke, right? Was it just the pandemic and everyone was online and it just worked really well because of that time? Like, was it just because like everything kind of lined up for me and I'd gotten lucky, right? So these are a lot of the thoughts that I was having internally at this time. Now, here's the second lesson for today. Money doesn't give you anything. Money is a mirror, and money reveals our wounds. Okay. I said that I was going to go into wealth energetics today. So this is really important. I was hoping that now I'd made more money than I'd ever made, especially coming from living off of food stamps, that money was just going to somehow solve all of the problems that I had, like any internal inner issues, issues in the business. Money would just come in and solve that. I never had money. So in my head, I was putting money on this massive pedestal that it was like, once I had this money, I would be happy and I would feel so good and everything would just work itself out. And then I would have money to pay for this and that. And I can hire support, which I did. But it was like, it wasn't the case. I was making a lot of money. I was making more than I ever had, but I was still feeling drained. I was still feeling unaligned, right? In the case of like social media coaching and management, like I wasn't inspired and lit up anymore. The money didn't give me more inspiration. It didn't give me more joy. It didn't go and fix anything inside the business. It highlighted what it wasn't working, the bottleneck issues, where I was the bottleneck, where I was working harder instead of being more intentional, where I wasn't saying no when I needed to say no. And instead, it mirrored my wounds, my fears. It created this anxious attachment relationship with my business. And so at this point, this was the point of shifting into a business coach and really shifting my identity and my role and my work. This was also my massive, massive spiritual awakening point. This was like, it had already been creeping for some time now, since like 2019, I would say, when I like feel like I heard my intuition for what was probably not the first time, but it was the first time that I actually listened, right? You all know what I mean. Like you hear it and you ignore it for so long, and then there's a moment where you're like, okay, maybe I should trust this. And it was with the guy that I was dating at the time. We were together for like 2 years, and I just knew, like I knew that something was up. I knew that there was somebody else, and I had no proof of it. And in fact, it was like it was insane. There was no proof, and I knew, and it was the reason I broke up with him. And he said that I was insane and said all these things, and then lo and behold, it was actually like this friend who'd randomly seen him because she had recognized him from my stories with somebody else, and then it all like came out, and even his family and his sisters were like, oh my God, like what is happening? And it was the first time that I had listened to my intuition and really honored it, and I was right, and I knew it, and I knew it in my soul, I knew it in my body. I like couldn't shake it. I even like remember going to therapy at that point because I was like, oh my goodness, I just must have these major trust issues. No, no, no. It was just my higher self speaking to me, and my spiritual gifts were coming in. um, so that was like the beginning of it, but then I wasn't sure what to do with it until right now. Hitting burnout in my business made me feel like I was losing myself again. It was almost like postpartum depression all over again. Not that bad, though. That was like the worst. But I was feeling like I was losing myself. I was like, oh my goodness, everything is so tied to my business doing well and money coming in and keeping this up. Because at this point, I'd made over $200,000 in the first year in my business. So I'd gone from living off of food stamps, doing dangerous things so that I can have food on the table, to now I'd made $200,000 in a year. And so that to my nervous system and to the little girl, the little wounded girl who was still operating in survival mode, was like, oh my God, I got to do everything that I can to make sure that this stays and it doesn't go away, because what is that going to mean about me? Was this all a fluke? Like I was starting to like spiral a little bit. Okay. So I started to go from this I see it as a pendulum, right? The pendulum swung all the way to like overworking, working into the night, studying for finals, getting homework done. I was doing homework on Zoom, right? I was doing classes on Zoom. Alaska was doing kindergarten on Zoom. I was taking care of her. She was home with me all the time because we were in the middle of the pandemic, right? So I was overworking. It was like everything I was doing in my business was like work, 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 post, 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 sell, 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 like masterclass after masterclass, launch after launch after launch, 13 one-on-one clients. Like the roster was fully filled. I was like in deep in overworking. And when I started learning about energetics and manifestation and like really doing more money mindset work and just starting to like shift my beliefs, I swung all the way to the other end. And for a time period, I wasn't really selling. I wasn't really showing up. I was still figuring out how I was going to pivot into being a business coach. But I was also doing a lot of inner work. I remember taking naps, like 2 naps a day sometimes, because what I was processing, I was finally all the trauma that had happened that I shared in the last call, right? Like getting kicked out of the house and my boyfriend leaving me, and things coming to a head. Like the cops were called and he ended up moving out of the house, and it was just extremely abusive. It was extremely unhealthy. Everything came to a head. Everyone left in my life, right? All my friends were off to college. Like I had no one. It was literally just me. And I didn't even know how to process that at the time. I just had to keep pushing through because I knew I needed to put food on the table. My daughter needed to eat. It was actually one of the reasons why I breastfed her until she was like over 2 years old. Somehow I had the milk and I did it, but I couldn't afford formula. Like I just literally did what I had to do. And I feel like my body supported me in it and was like, look, we're going to get her fed and she's going to be fine, right? But you're going to have to find a way to get food for yourself, but she's going to be fine. So that first, like, and I started my business when she was, what was she, like 4 or 5 or something? But anyway, until she was like 2 years old. And then we were on this government assistant program called Women, Infants, and Children. It's called WIC. Amazing program. By the way, love it. It actually gives you these checks. It's like separate from food stamps, but you do have to be able to like be certified for both, right? Or you have to qualify for both. So I qualified for both food stamps and this program. So from 0 to 5 years old, they would give you these checks that you can cash for food, right? So it was like food stamps would give you a card, right? So now it's like EBT, right? It's an EBT card, and you can go and you have a certain amount of money that you can use, and you can go use it at certain EBT allowed locations and get certain things, right? And then WIC would give me checks, and I would get, it was the same thing every month, but it would work, right? There was like cheese and milk and yogurt, and there was like you could get vegetables, you could get a certain amount, like $10 of veggies, $20 of this, right? So I would go and take it to these stores and I would cash in like exactly what I could get and just bring it all to the house. Um, so that's what I was doing at that time, right? And I'd never really fully processed all of that trauma because I had to go and make money. And then at a certain point, it was like I was going to school, I was going to work. It was like all of it just kind of got suppressed. So now that I was doing this inner work and all these fears were coming up in my business, it was like everything had erupted. I was crying, I was sleeping, I was so out of myself. I felt like I was having these out of body experiences. My guide started contacting me. I started hearing angels singing. I would have these like electrical, like whole body electrical things like moving through my body. I would have these like psychic visions. I would have these massive like intuition hits. It was crazy. Like I felt like I was losing my mind. Um, and I was awakening, right? I was literally awakening. And this is at the time that I got certified in Reiki, which was actually one of the like I don't really use it anymore. Like I'll use it for myself or my daughter, but like I don't really use it in like business. But I'm really grateful I did because it really helped me come back to, oh, I can heal myself and support myself, right? I started going to therapy at this time. I started working with specific coaches to dive deeper into these shadows. So, somatic work, really diving into this. And at first, it was just like, oh, I just need to fix this thing and I need to stop working so hard. And then it was, no, it was not that. It was much deeper. It was much, much, much deeper. So I really like went into what was feeding this subconscious pattern and cycle for me to be like demonizing money and to be sacrificing, right? This is also when I started the podcast because now at this point I had so many stories to share. I needed a place to like express it. And I started the Social Reset podcast. So I was learning about the subconscious mind. I was shedding these very outdated, oppressive, fear-focused beliefs around religion and God. I really started understanding everything about like everything was energy. Everything was energy. And I really like that led into my money beliefs. And here's the thing, like money doesn't make anybody bad. Like money itself is not bad. Money is incredible. And it's this incredible energetic resource that we get to tap into anytime we'd like. So think of it this way, like we're drowning in abundance. Abundance is everywhere. But abundance also doesn't equal money, by the way. Abundance is just like a lot of something, right? So we have the abundance of oxygen. A lot of us have the abundance of water. Right. A lot of us have an abundance of Wi-Fi. If you're able to tune into this call, right? If you have like you're able to use cellular data, like you can get online, right? You have an abundance of love. We have an abundance, like a lot of us have abundance of food. There's an abundance of nature, depending on where you live, right? Depending on where you are. There is an abundance of so many things around us that we don't normally count, right? And we don't question that, like, if we did good enough, right, the sun comes up. Or if we're a good person, then we can breathe oxygen. But money, it reflects our deepest core beliefs and the beliefs of society. It's actually the same energetically to attract $5 as it is to attract 50, 500, 5,000, and 50,000. However, our thoughts about $50,000 are very different than $5, right? How confident do you feel generating $5 versus $50,000? Just feel into that for a moment. Now, think about $50,000 across your lifetime, right? That feels probably a little more doable, right? You're like, yeah, okay, I can do that in my lifetime. But what about $50,000 in a year? So that might create a little bit more, but some of us are probably like, yeah, I can do it. I've done it before, right? That's my salary, whatever. I can do it. What about $50,000 by the end of this week? Now there's typically a bit more contraction depending on your beliefs and depending on what you think about money. So we pedestalize money so much. We put money on this pedestal. We make it mean all these things, or we vilify it, very similar to mentorship. When we get to see money as a neutral resource, we create this powerful relationship with it, right? As a neutral resource, Money gets to come in and support us. I just taught my premium sales energetics program, Heart of Sales. A lot of you were in there. And inside Heart of Sales, I talk about how when you can experience money as energy and you lead from that energy, you learn to source that power from within. So you source that worthiness from inside you. You're already powerful. You already know who you are. Money doesn't give that to you, right? It doesn't give that to you when the money comes, then I feel. No, you feel it and then the money comes. Money is here to support your mission and it's here to also respond to you. So if you are not already feeling worthy, loved, successful, having more and more and more money is only going to highlight the lack thereof. It's not going to give you the feeling of success, or it's very fleeting. Like you get it and then you're like, okay, yay. Okay, more. Right. And there's never going to be enough money that you can make. Trust me, whether it's 100,000 or 500,000 or a million or millions or even billions. It's not going to give you the feeling of success. I have sat at enough tables, right? Because then if it isn't like, oh my gosh, I didn't make 5K and I wanted to make 5K, or I made 1K instead of 5K, I've been in rooms where people are saying it was $800,000, but it wasn't a million, right? So at every single level, money does not, it's not the money, it's not the money, it's not the money, it's not the money, it's not the money. I'm going to say this till I'm blue in the face. And I repeat it a lot with my clients. It's not the money. Trust me on this. It is never the money. It's never about the money. It's never the money. It's never waiting on the money. It's never what the money can do for you. It's none of that. Ever, ever, in any circumstance. The money is just a mirror. It's just a mirror. And the faster that you can grasp this, the faster you can hold it and attract tons of it. Okay. Now, here's the sales perspective because wealth versus sales is different. Wealth is like holding the money and attracting the money, right? And wealth also doesn't just mean money. Wealth is like the abundance, right? Wealth is like you literally can tap in and feel wealthy. Sales is like the dollar amount of who's saying yes and how much money you made in cash today and how much money you made in the past year. You can feel wealthy, but not be making a lot of sales. So these both need to come hand in hand, right? You can't just feel wealthy and abundant and people aren't saying yes and actively paying you, right? In a business, we need both. That's what I teach: wealth energetics and sales magnetism. Okay. So money, it's also an energetic exchange. So money, aka sales, comes into your business not when you price your offers as low as possible or when you work as hard as possible or when you offer as many discounts as possible. It's when you speak to the person who values the transformation of your product or your service. I teach this way in depth inside Heart of Sales. I'm not going to go into this that much because that's really what that program is for. If you would like to learn more details about that program, let me know. It is an absolute masterpiece on sales energetics, pricing your offers, expanding your capacity, wealth energetics. Like it is the sales and wealth course in my world. So this is how I teach pricing offers though, okay? Just to go into it a little bit. I don't teach you to price your offers. By the way, I never tell my clients how to price their offers ever, ever, ever. But I teach how to price your own offers, not by looking around at what other people are pricing their offers at, but by speaking and thinking and pricing based on the person who values the transformation of your product or your service. There are people out there who will pay $500,000 for a 1 year coaching container. I've seen it over and over. There are people out there who pay $1 million for coaching. I've seen that as well. I've met people who've sold their cars to get coaching. That's why it's never true when someone says I can't afford it. It's just they don't want it. They haven't gotten there yet. Right. That's a whole other conversation. People also pay five, six figures for a handbag, a bag, six figures and beyond for cars. Okay. So is any of this right or wrong? It's not. It's about what you deem valuable. I don't see the value in paying. I don't have any luxury like bags or items. It's just not the way that I choose to spend my wealth. But I can see how purchasing that for someone who is super in alignment with it will make them feel like the richest, most luxurious person. Like I can see that. I can understand that, right? I don't necessarily see the value in the same way they do, but I can understand that, right? It's about what you deem valuable and speaking to the people who already value your work, right? Like Cartier is not going to run TV commercials at like 5 or 6 or 7 p.m. on a TV because that's not their ideal customer, right? Or Lamborghini is not going to do TV commercials because the people buying Lamborghinis probably don't watch a lot of TV. It's about what you deem valuable and speaking to the people who already value your work. And next Tuesday on call number 3, we're going to be talking about going from $500,000 to $1 million and really how that's based in not selling yourself, but selling your movement. Because inside a movement, you're not convincing people. You're banding people and attracting people together who already value the same things you do. You're not convincing them. You're speaking to the choir who are like, yeah, that's my language. You're speaking like clients literally say to me, you're speaking my language. I like you. I resonate. That lands with me. You're speaking my language, right? I'm not convincing them. They're not going, oh, okay. Why do you feel like that? Okay. Oh, I'm not sure. Tell me more, but I don't. And then, and then that, which is what I used to do, call one, explain and defend and go into this elaborate explanation so that they can see my point of view, right? It was like early conversations after I had healed relationships with my parents and was starting to let them in on more of my life and what I was doing and trying to explain why I was investing thousands of dollars into mentorship and why I desired to build this business. It was like I was speaking in another language, the way that they were looking at me and the way that they responded. They didn't get it. They didn't see the value in it. They didn't fully grasp it. Now they do, also because now they have the proof. And sometimes people in our lives literally just need to see the proof. You don't actually need their support in order to do what you need to do. I went in with no support. Like no one in my life was like, "Yeah, go and do it," except for like two of my friends. So you don't need people's support to be successful. Okay, coming back to the story. So I'm now a business coach and I'm beginning to work with business coaching clients. It's slower. It's definitely slower. I stopped sales calls because I was having people book out for like 2 months in advance and I was over it. I couldn't do it anymore. I still since then have never opened up sales calls. Very, very, very rarely I will offer it to someone that I already know, like a client who's thinking about upgrading into another offer. And we want to talk about how they would be a good fit. And if we don't want to do that in the voice notes, I might invite them into a call with me, right? But I've probably done like one of those in the last like year or two. I and my people generally they know and then they move, right? So I don't often even have to get there to offer a call. That's another, we can talk more about that on call number 2. So I felt like I was starting from scratch. And for a time, I wasn't exactly sure what my clients had wanted or like how to teach them. So I jumped headfirst in anyway. This leads me to my first $0 launch in, half out energy. And I was expecting nobody to show up and nobody to sign up. And that was really my downfall, right? I launched this program called the Activated Coach. And I just thought that it was going to be like my other programs where I would have people lined up and people would be excited and they would be interested because that's how it had worked when I built up my social media coaching business and platform. Now that I was in a different, I was in a different iteration of my business, I was here wanting to speak to coaches. So I created this program called the Activated Coach. And it was a group program, and it was my first coaching program for other coaches as a business mentor. Now I was teaching business. And nobody, I think one person or two people had reached out about it, and nobody signed up for it. And as I went in to evaluate this afterwards, I remember I posted about it a few times. I just expected people would jump in. I had all these people from social media coaching. I figured that if I pivoted and I talked about it, like people would just jump in. But here's the thing, it was new. Not only was it new to the public, it was new to me. And this is something we don't always talk about is with when you're creating a brand new offer, it's not just that your people have never heard of it and they need to be primed and prepped and they need to like warm to it a little bit. Not always. You're going to have the people who jump in right away like those are my people, right? But for the majority of people who come in over time, they want to see it. They want to see it from different angles. They want to feel into it. They want to make sure that this is for them. Okay. I wanted to give people a reason to join my programs. And at the same time, I needed to create that conviction within myself. So I kept playing, I kept building in the back end. I realized that this happened because I wasn't really all in. I was in and I wasn't fully convicted. I wasn't fully confident in it. I didn't really know where this was going to go. Like I didn't have the momentum behind it. And I was still building that, right? This was at the very beginning of me being a business coach. And so there was a lot that I was still navigating. So I kept going. I kept continuing to collect the data from one-on-one and group coaching sessions. I started to take on more business coaching clients. I offered some free clients at this time. I'd already made $200,000 and I offered free coaching. And I also offered like a free beta version of some of the things that I was offering, right? It was like there was the internal voice of like, oh my goodness, I'd already made $200,000 in 1 year. And here I am. People are going to see me offering free coaching and people are going to see me beta test a new program. And here's the thing, and this is one of the reasons why I'm so successful or why I've created so much success in a short amount of time. Honestly, this is like a key lesson. I have never been afraid of looking stupid. Like I don't care. I don't care. I'm not too good to do anything. I will do anything. I will do anything. And this is the mindset because I can see this even happening in people in the very beginning stages of their business. We're like, well, I just don't want to do that. Or I don't want, well, it's like you, to a certain extent, yes, I overworked myself in the first year in business. Absolutely. I did burn myself out. And also, I believe that there is a certain level of grit and resilience that you have to build as a leader where you go in, you get your hands dirty. You go and coach and coach and coach. You sell the fuck out of your offers. You show up and you talk about it like there's no tomorrow. No one signs up for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, months. You keep going, right? That is the level of grit that you have to build and releasing all energy of like, what if I look stupid? I've said that there's 3 spots left for 2 months now. People know that they're not buying. There's still 3 spots left yet. Oh my gosh. Fuck all of that. You keep going. And this is where I see a lot of people feeling like they're just too good to do that kind of work. And then their business never takes off, right? But I didn't give a fuck. I was like, I don't care what people think and what people say. I shared that even after I started my mastermind, I had like a flopped launch of the mastermind after it already made like multi six figures. And I talked about it publicly on my podcast and how I built it back up, right? They're like, these are the moments. I'm not saying you have to share all of this like I choose to, but You have to be able to put yourself in these situations where you are extremely uncomfortable. Building a massive business is going to make you feel extremely uncomfortable a lot of the time, right? You want to build an extraordinary life. This is what I was saying in the last call. You want to build something extraordinary. You want to build an extraordinary movement that's going to blow your mind and have extraordinary results. You are also going to have to be extraordinary, right? You're not going to just come home and sit in front of the TV like a regular person who works a 9 to 5, right? And goes and drinks with their friends and gossips. Like, you're not going to do those things. Like, those things, like, they're going to be very far and few between, right? Or they're going to be very intentional, or you're not going to do them at all because you're building a different kind of life. Um this isn't about not letting yourself do certain things, like go and experience the freedom and the joy and the pleasure of your life. But also, if you are so set on building, like it sets your soul on fire, because here's the other thing is you don't have to do this. No one has to build a massive legacy, a massive empire, a massive like movement. You don't have to do it. But if you are choosing to, this is what is required of you, right? This is what is required of you is a certain level of work ethic, not just attraction and manifestation and the energetics, but also hard work, right? Not overworking, but hard work. This week, last week, these past couple weeks, you can't even imagine the meetings I'm having with my team, all of the contractors that are helping me with the rebrand, all of the emails that I have to write. Alaska just started middle school, right? So she has all these classes and homework. I've been up till like 10, 11 at night, writing out notes, building, and I do this because I love it. Yesterday on Tuesday, I was outside praying over every single person who had jumped into Road to Millions. And then I'm starting to get messages from people watching the replays on the different time zones, right? And I posted some of them to my stories yesterday. Like, I love what I do. I am not afraid of hard work. And that's the hard truth of it is like you have to put in a significant amount of work. If you're afraid of late nights, you're afraid of early mornings, you're afraid of really putting in the hours needed to build this. And yes, it's going to shift and evolve, right? Like, I am in a launch season. This is a very specific, I also took most of like July off, right? But like, you are going to build and get there. This is not necessarily like you have to get to a certain point by like really overworking yourself and being the unpaid intern. That's not necessarily what I'm saying, but I'm saying that you also can't be afraid of working really hard in your business to create the extraordinary life, right? You can't have the extraordinary life without putting in extraordinary work. It just doesn't work like that. It will not just show up and be handed to you, right? It doesn't work like that. So, creating BAA is the next step of this journey. So, Business Activation Academy, this is the birth of this program. Now, BAA is my like signature foundational program, offer creation, building out your coaching process. Like, all of my coaches that have hit 6 figures in their business, they started going through and still continue to go through. My clients who are making like multi 6 figures have also gone through BAA and rewatched BAA. Like, this is the foundations of a 6, 7 figure business. This is like connecting to your magic. This is offer creation. This is messaging, marketing, sales calls. This is like, if you haven't hit $10,000 in your business, like, get yourself inside BAA. This is like in my most strategic program where I break down messaging strategy, sales strategy, how to create your first offer, how to price your first offer, how to get it out there, working with beta clients, like building out your philosophy and your unique coaching process. It's very like build out your own, like choose your own adventure coaching style. Like, you go, like, people have literally jumped into BAA, had no idea what they wanted to do, and then popped out with like 10K, 20K months because of BAA alone. Like, this is like the heart of my work before this like deepening and expansion. I'm going to create more and more robust programs, but BAA, like I still have people jumping into BAA. It's not like an offer I'm launching in the front end, but this is an offer that people continue to jump into and request and get links for in the back end because of how good it is. If I can recommend one program of mine that teaches you all the ropes of being a successful coach or mentor, you want to build a six-figure, seven-figure coaching program, a coaching business, you want to learn how to hone your experience and skill sets as a coach, it's BAA. So this was my first signature program. And for a while, it was the only thing I sold. And I remember because of the success of being a social media coach, like at this point, I'd gone through so much trial and error. I had made multi six figures before building this program, and I had so much knowledge to share. So, in a way, that program is like a time capsule of me high off my multi six figure first year, teaching you like how I was building out programs, working with clients. Like, one of the things that you get inside BAA is, and I didn't even plan on like promoting this specific program inside this call, but it's so fucking good. The call replays, I did weekly coaching calls since 2021. There are hundreds. You can literally watch someone go from hi Tiffany, I just joined BA, I have no idea what I want to do, to I just celebrated my first $10,000 month. Like you can literally watch the evolution of like what someone went through during this time period, and it's actually insane. Like I've had people tell me like the call replays and the coaching was worth the investment on its own. So this is a beast of a program, okay? Like I'm so excited about it, and I love this program. And I remember when I first joined, not joined, when I was first building BAA, I had people tell me that this was going to be a six-figure launch. That I had like all these people are going to sign up, and I did the calculations. I was like, okay, how much would I need to do? How many people would I need to be to in order to like create six figures? And then come time for my launch, I chose 8/8. It was 8/8/21, so Lionsgate Portal 2021. And it ended up being $40,000, which was so incredible at that time. And I was actually like so excited about it. And yet, because I had set that number in my head, I was like, oh, why wasn't it a six-figure offer? Which, like, in hindsight, is so funny, right? But I was like so set on it being six figures. But I taught the program. It was a live cohort at the time. I was really proud of myself and the effort and energy that went into it. I even recorded this whole like behind the scenes docu-series about like building it out and launching it, and like oh my gosh, it was so good. I might have to like pull that out and make it into something at some point, but I still have the videos from like that little docu-series. um I recorded 11 modules with 4 to 5 lessons in every single module. Like when I say it was a beast of a program, and I teach you the technical, energetic, strategic mindset, everything you need to build a successful coaching program. Like honestly, if you are not at the level of Magic Mind, right? You're not like you have a consistent flow of clients inside and you've been doing that for like at least a year, like you feel really good about the clients and the work you're doing, you've been selling your offer for a while. If you're not there yet, Business Activation Academy will literally get you there. So DM me about it. It's still available for purchase. I was so proud of what I created, and my clients in the first round were already getting results. And some of them after the first round had like quit their day job. And I was like, oh, okay, I have something here. So I was working on building up my conviction, right? So by the time we got to the second launch, I was aware of what this was turning into, but I wasn't fully there yet. It was almost like I needed to get myself on board. But by the time we got to the second launch, I had 2 people join, and one of them couldn't continue paying, which I remember was the first time that that had happened. And I remember feeling like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So I tightened up my standards. I tightened up my boundaries. I tightened up my contracts after that. It taught me a really valuable lesson in terms of like who I allow and don't allow into my world. And that just, yeah, I have very, very strong standards around that now. And I teach that in my containers because you don't want to work with clients that are going to break integrity on their contracts. During the third launch, I think I had one person join. And I remember starting to feel really discouraged. I was like, oh my goodness, I was excited about where BA was going. I bought all these launching courses. I felt like it looked so easy for other people, right? At one point, I felt like I was sending like 3 emails a day because that's what I felt like I was supposed to be doing. I ran ads for the first two launches, but I felt like everything I was doing was coming up short and it was like even worse than that first launch. So here's the checkpoint lesson for BAA. This is the double back and double down lesson, right? Through the perspective of launching. So there was a moment, okay? This theme is decisions for this call. There was a moment where I decided I'm all in. BAA is my baby. I decided if I didn't love the fuck out of my offer, who would? So I buckled down. And also, this is like expecting your offer to do the work for you and expecting the offer to like convince you to get on board. Like what? It's like sending your kid off to kindergarten, they come home and they're like, "I didn't make any friends." Right? You're not going to be like, "Oh, okay, well, like let's throw the kid out." I'm just kidding. Or like, "Let's throw out kindergarten," right? It's never going to happen. You're never going to make friends. Or are you going to say, "Oh my God, it's the first fucking day." Well, maybe you wouldn't say that to a kindergartner. It's the first day. Go out there, go join in on people's conversations, go have fun. You're gonna make friends. You're gonna be fine, right? So I that's how I took it. I literally took it as that and I buckled the fuck down. I got to connecting with the spirit of my offer. I remember having dates with the spirit of BAA. I got so aligned and listened to my intuition on how I wanted to run and sell this program. I stopped running ads because it didn't feel aligned to me. I updated the modules. I shortened it so it wasn't a super long comprehensive program. I shortened it into like the core lessons that I really wanted people to experience. I changed it to application process only. And then I changed it from cohorts because remember, I was still teaching it live. Every 12 weeks, I was teaching it live. I changed it to evergreen, and everything was like pre recorded lessons. I leaned away from launching all the time and doing the like rinse and repeat, which like I still love like launching in this big way, right? But I shifted it into opening my energy to letting clients find me anytime and would want to jump in at any time. And I opened my energy to allow that to happen. And it's still literally, people still trickle into BAA. I got super clear on what my clients wanted. I studied them. This is what I mean by I am not afraid of some hard fucking work. I went back into all of my past coaching sessions. I offered free coaching sessions again. I was offering free coaching calls or weekly coaching calls inside BAA for everyone who was in the container. I talked about these coaching calls. I talked about my clients' wins. I showed up. I did IG client win live streams with everyone who went through the first couple cohorts. I was doing IG lives with them. I was featuring them on my podcast. I was talking about this like there was nothing else in the world. I got myself so fired up and I let myself show that in the marketing and in my messaging. Like from the inside out, I built this relationship with BAA, which I still feel, which was so strong. And then I started to align my messaging. First, BAA was the magic business school. Then it was like sign your first client. Then it was like clients were making 5K, 10K. One of my clients was making $30,000. And I was like, oh my God, this has got to be like launch your coaching business and make your first 6 figures. Like it was becoming such a big program. And now clients were going through the program and they were becoming like prominent in their field. And then they were like talking about BAA and then their friends would join BAA. And it was becoming this big thing. I remember there was a time where someone had made this spam account, this fake account of me messaging people about joining BAA, hoping that they would pay them through this link. And I was really scared. It was like this scam that was happening at the time. And I was like, oh my God, make sure you're not giving anyone this money. Like, that's not me. I would never DM you. I don't cold DM anyone. And people were like, yeah, I didn't think that was you. But it was like this whole thing that I had to get shut down by Meta because BAA had gotten so popular and it was so big that someone had made this account to try to sell it and make money off of it because this program was doing so well. And so many people were quitting their jobs. They were building 5 and 6 figures, and this was the time where like I started playing with different angles that felt good for me. Like I did it through joy. I did it through alignment. I'd done a lot of the trauma release healing by this point, and I was still continuing to do it. Trust me, it was not over. But this was the phase where I was just leaning in. I wasn't that like burnt, overworked version of me. I started posting and sharing like, I'm the 6 figure business owner that sleeps until 12 and I take naps and I don't really organize or batch content, but this is my flow and this is what I do. Like that was just the era I was in. I'm not in that era anymore. I wake up at like 6 a.m. I'm like a completely different person, but that was the era I was in and I really owned it and people loved it. Like I fell in love with my love for BAA and I was so proud of it. I got to a point where I was like, if you're not in here, and you want to build a successful coaching program, like what are you doing? That was the energy that I had. Like that was the energy I had going into selling this program. I literally felt high on my own supply. Like I was high on how I chose to do life and business, and it was like the results were intending, like the results didn't come in yet. Try like when I was doing all this work, I was not seeing all the results yet. This was still me coming off the back of like a 2 person launch, and then one of them fell off, and then I did another launch, but one person joined, or I talked about it on my stories for a couple weeks, but nobody joined. This was me, like, this was me and me. I didn't even see the results yet. I didn't have any proof that this was going to work, okay? This was me and my delusion, baby. That was it. Like when I tell you I was crazy, I was crazy. But this is also where like I wasn't afraid of hard work and I wasn't afraid of being delusional and I was not afraid of looking stupid. I don't care about looking stupid, and I'm sure I looked stupid. Some of the things I was doing and how much I was talking about it, and like there were certain points where I was like offering free coaching and I was doing these like 90-minute intensives, and I was like there was so much that I was doing to get myself in this state. Okay. So I studied my clients. I had notes on notes on notes. Like it almost sounds creepy. I had folders on my clients from our sessions, including the ones who had joined. This was a group program. I wasn't even working with them one on one. And I had these notes on where they were and what they were doing. And I studied them. I studied like what would make someone get to 10K, but this person didn't. Okay, this person didn't get, this person got here, but this person didn't get there. Why? Why was that happening? I literally felt like a scientist, like a literal mad scientist. Like I was crazy. I was insane, but it worked. It all worked. And it was beautiful. And I remember starting to see people trickle in and I was like, okay, all right, there's something here. I remember a client jumped in, found me. No, I was not launching. I was not in a launch cycle. It was just a regular old week. And she found me. She followed me on like a Monday. And then she messaged me later and said she was having dreams of me. And her dreams were saying, like, don't forget about Tiffany, talk to Tiffany, BAA. Like, and within like, I think Wednesday or Thursday of that week, she paid in full for BAA. Which another thing about BAA was this was a course, okay? This was a course and it came with weekly coaching. Everyone at this time, I shit you not, the community I was in was charging at most $2,000 for something like that. This was a very popular thing in like 2020, 2021. People would have their one main offer. It was their one course. It was like the Amy Porterfields and the James Wedmores, and like they all had their one course, right? And it was like that was the thing. And the most was like 2,000, maybe 3,000, right? I got the intuitive hit to sell BAA at 55.55. And I remember being like, that's crazy. That's crazy. People are used to paying 1,000, 2,000, 2020, right? Or 2021. And here I was, my intuition was like, it's 55, 55. Take it or leave it, babe. And I was like, what? What do you mean? And I resisted it. I resisted it. I resisted it. And I got to a point where I surrendered and I was like, all right, it's fucking 55, 55. And I remember I spent months getting behind this number. And I did. And I got to a point where I was like, 55, 55 to build a six-figure coaching business? Are you fucking insane? You are crazy to not pay that. Like, I got to a point where I was like, I would yell it off the rooftops. I remember meeting someone at an event and we had a networking period for 5 minutes. I talked to her, we chatted, I asked where she was in business. She was telling me all these things. In 5 minutes, talked about BAA, sold it to her. She asked me for the link, and the next day I DM'd it to her and she bought. She's still in my world. I got so good at selling BAA. I was selling it in person. I was selling it online. I was selling it from people who, like, I knew every single client because we would jump on a sales call and we would talk. I had people jumping into BAA who had never had a conversation with me. Didn't book a sales call. I wasn't doing sales calls at this point anymore. Didn't book a sales call. Didn't they literally just like jumped in and they bought. They're like, "Yep, I'm in. Let's go." My messaging was becoming so clear. Everything was like it was like blowing up. So this became my most popular offer. It generated $400,000 in cash, just BAA alone. I had nearly like 100 clients go through that offer. And it was because it held the power even when nobody was, I held the power when nobody was buying, even when nothing was happening, even when I was going through the launch with like one person would sign up and then two people would sign up. And I would go through a promo cycle because I stopped the cohorts where I was just like promoting it and nobody would reach out. I would do like the sticker slider and I would kept checking my stories to see who would slide it so I can slide in their DMs because I never did cold DMs. And it would be like 0 people have responded. And I'd be like, oh, but I did not ever make it mean shut it down, throw in the towel. I literally said, fuck the proof. I didn't need it. Who, as a powerful, extraordinary leader, you want to build a life that's extraordinary and you're looking for proof? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You want to build a movement that is a global revolution where your name is on billboards and people are paying you 6, 7 figures and you're looking for proof? No, you're not. No, you're fucking not. So that was literally like the mindset I got myself in where I was like, I don't need the fucking proof. I'm gonna create it. I'm gonna create it. You don't see it yet? That's because it's not here yet. There's some buffer time in the universe. It just hasn't happened yet. I got myself into this mass delusion. Okay. I held the faith. I held the power. I saw what I was going to build. I connected not with where I was at that moment, because where I was at that moment was one person, 2 people. Less people were starting to sign up than the first launch of BAA. I think the first launch was like 8 people. If I'm doing the math correctly, it was like 40K. So anyway, it was a handful of people. Okay. It was a handful of people. And then the second launch, the third launch, one person, 2 people, no people. In fact, the odds were stacked against me. I easily could have been like, oh, this isn't working. This is not working. Like, I needed something, I need to stop selling. I should just create something new. And instead, I said, no, we're doubling down. And I doubled the fuck down. I held the power even when I was getting no after no after no. And this was even harder because I'd already created $200,000 in the first year in my business, where I used to get on sales call after sales call after sales call, and people would say, no, 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 no. I felt like I was back there. So in a way, this was even harder because I'd already created so much success. six figures in 8 months, $200,000 in the first year of business. And here I was offering free coaching calls, and people weren't signing up for this program. And here I was building this conviction. It was hard. It wasn't just like, oh, they're not signing up. Yay, I love BAA. There was crying, there was coaching, there was losing my mind, there was evaluations, there was, should I go back to being a social media coach? No, I fucking hate it. Okay, I have to grit my teeth and fucking take this on the chin. Like, let's just keep going. This was months. This was not like a couple of weeks. This was months. Okay. So this took a lot of my energy. And honestly, any other person probably would have thrown in the towel. Like, it was difficult, it was challenging. And for the first time, I was running a group. Okay. And you all know, if you've gone from one on ones to groups, it's like it's even more so in masterminds. Masterminds are like, your clients are triggering you, the coach is triggering the clients are triggering each other. There's like trigger city, right? And everyone has to learn to regulate their emotions, and everyone has to learn to hold that. In a group, it's very similar. It's like people are triggering each other. Some people are like, they're hopping on, they're hopping in, they're hopping out, they're like, their energy, they're like bringing up, oh well, this is what I expected, this is what I wanted. Like, you're having to hold all these people that you used to handle privately all in one space. So while I was trying to build conviction for this fucking offer, this offer was driving me fucking crazy, right? So but I had to go through all these lessons to really learn how to be a leader. And now I actually really don't do one-on-ones at all. I'll offer them to select people who I've worked with. I really don't publicly, you do not really see me publicly sell one-on-one offers. And if you do, just know that it's extremely aligned and I'm opening up like one spot or two spots, but I'm very selective about who I work with one-on-one. I do not just extend that offer to anybody. And I do not really extend that offer to someone that I haven't already worked with. So typically one-on-ones, like I'm doing Telegram coaching with someone right now. We've done it many times. My Magic Mind clients get access to Telegram coaching, but it's not something that I open up. Very selective with one-on-ones because I love groups. I love groups. I love, like, one to many is like my bread and butter now, right? I love it. I love it. I'm so good at it. I can handle the group dynamics. I can handle the triggers. I can help people navigate their own triggers. I can have hard conversations with clients. I've done it. I know how to do it, right? I'm great at leading groups. But it took me having to go through all of this in order for me to get there. All right. So I really got myself into a state where I was like, I'm committed to doing this. I haven't seen the results yet, but let's fucking play. Let's evaluate, let's play, let's experiment. And this is a key thing that I now teach in Magic Mind with my high level clients, is to evaluate. This is where I really learned to evaluate, because up until this point, I was just like doing things and then, oh, I don't like this. Okay, I'm gonna do, okay, I don't like that. Well, I was starting to sit down and evaluate my whole life, which actually genuinely was what I was doing at that point because of all the trauma that had caught up with me from everything I shared in call one. We're not going to go into that again, but like everything was like, oh, I have to process that and that and that happened. Oh my gosh. And there were memories that I had suppressed, which were coming up as well. So I was evaluating everything. And then I brought that energy into my business. I was like, why did I have that $0 launch? I didn't even process that or evaluate that at the time. I did it later because I didn't know what was happening. Okay, I need to open up a window. It's getting so hot in here. Or maybe I'm just like, my energy is like rising. So now I'm like sweating. Okay. So I want to try to keep this short because it's been like an hour and a half now. I'm going to try to like wrap it up. But I was really like evaluating everything at this point, right? And so I was starting to understand, like, why are people not signing up for BAA? Why? Right? Like, why? Why is this not happening? And I really started to look at things from like a neutral perspective and start to evaluate in a way that I had never had before. And that was really powerful for me because I really started to like, I now like with my high level clients, this is something we do all the time. And we'll get into coaching. I'll be like, have you evaluated this? And they're like, no, I need to. Like, they know that this is a culture, or they're like, here's my evaluation from this launch. Can you help me with this, this, and this? This is where I think I need to learn. So it's like, what do you What are you going to double down on? What did you do? What did you like that you, what did you do that you didn't like? What did you do that you did like? What worked? What didn't work? Like, was this a 10x? Was this a 2x? Like, we go through an entire evaluation signature process that I have created, and it helps them to really identify, oh, this is why that didn't work. And then the next launch, boom, pop out, and it's like double the numbers that they had last time. And it's like, well, see, you fucking evaluated. Like, you, this is what happens instead of like you do the same thing over and over and over and over and over and hope for a different result, which is insanity. Okay. So people will ask, like, when do we actually, like, this is a common question. We talk about this a lot, right? Like sometimes clients will come in and be like, when is the time that I actually do throw in the towel? Like, when do I actually like give it up? And here's the thing is if you're even asking yourself that, you're already out. You're already like halfway out the door. I didn't allow myself to go there during this time period. And if I did, got right back into it. I was like, nope, we're not going there. Come back in. Get out of my power, get back in the power. Right. And it's not about staying in power 24/7 because you're not a fucking AI robot. You are a human. So you need to make sure that you catch yourself when you're getting out of it and get back in. Okay, I saw something online. It triggered me. I'm feeling out of my power. How can I get back in? Right? What standards do I need to set in my life and in my business? Get back in, right? This thing is taking me out. This result, this launch result was not what I expected. And it's so painful and uncomfortable. How can I process it? Process your emotions first. Always, 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 always. Before you evaluate, before you do anything, before you get back in your power, process your emotions, feel your feelings, and then get back in your power. Okay. So we're not going to deep dive into that. That's like really the work that I do. But that's what I did was like I didn't let myself go into like, well, how long? And okay, maybe if it's been a year. No, I didn't let myself go there because what if it's like the meme of that gold miner that's like gives up and turns away right before the gold, right? Or it's like you say it's a year, but hey, things are happening in a year and a half, right? Like there's no timeline. And the timelines that we create as humans, because time doesn't actually exist, is such a blip in the grand scheme of things. Like it really doesn't even mean anything. And when you look back, even if it was a couple years, you're going to be like, I'm so glad I stuck through it, or I'm so glad I stuck through those months, or I stuck through however long it took because of where I am now, right? But if your energy is, well, when's the oh, let me see. Oh, it's been 6 months. Okay, well, people aren't, oh, mate, well, let me just, so then you're starting to look for proof to throw in the towel. And people can feel that because you know what? People can smell the energy. They can smell it from miles away, right? Energy never lies. So if you're in that energy and you're already questioning yourself, people are like, they might not know. They might just be like, I don't have the money. You know what? It just doesn't, maybe not right now. I'll get back to you. I have to go talk to my partner. That's what they'll say. They won't say, oh, you're not fully in. They'll say something like, I don't have the money, right? Which is never true. When you really want to do something, you do it. Okay. Or at least those are the people that I speak to, right? I don't speak to someone who literally doesn't have the money. Those are not my aligned clients. My clients find a way. All right. And your clients should be the same. They should find a way, or you're speaking to the wrong people. That's a messaging thing. All right. So at this point, money started showing up, mainly through BAA, also through one-on-one clients. I wasn't running any other group programs or coaching containers at the time. I was all in on BAA, and that's what I funneled everyone into. They were either a good match for BAA or they weren't a good match to work with me. I learned to say no. I stopped people pleasing. I turned people away. I got honest about who I served, and I dialed the fuck in on that. That was my transformation. Like that was the thing that I focused on was like the transformation, who I served. And my business began over time blowing up again, 20K, 30K, 50K, 60K, 70K, 80K months. I was breaking records and I was creating a true community. BAA was becoming this massive thing. People were pouring into BAA at each launch and in between launches. Now that it was an evergreen offer, I got asked to speak on podcasts about BAA. Manifestation Babe interviewed me and I talked about BAA on the podcast. I was like BAA was starting to like really take it by a storm, right? And now it wasn't like I was just doing launches and launches and launches. It was like people were jumping in. Oh, that's when you found me. I love that. Thanks, Madeline. Um People were pouring into BAA at each launch, like between the launches, because now it was an evergreen offer, right? So over time, I started to dwindle down my one-on-one program and solely focus on selling BAA. I loved the one-to-many work, right? I love it. It sets my soul on fire. It makes me so happy. So I'm going to lead into the last lesson and we're going to close for today. So around summer fall of like 2022, so now it's been a year of selling BAA or around a year and a half ish, I was watching my sales begin to plummet. What I was doing wasn't working as well anymore, or it seemed like, right? I'd get applications for BAA. Like I used to get applications for BA when I was out at dinner and playing with Alaska and out, like it would just come in all the time. And then it just started to like dwindle, right? And it was my main signature offer up until this point. It was the one thing I was selling. At this point, I had no one-on-one client. I think I maybe was working with like one or two people, but that was it. It was not my main offer like it used to be. I used to have like the whole roster. It was all one-on-one clients. Like I wasn't doing that anymore. So I realized that I started to feel like I had put myself in a box. Now, I was a part of these communities. This is why environments and who you choose as your mentor is really, really important. Okay. I'll talk more about that on the next call. I have more to say on that, but it's really important where you put yourself into. And I was in a couple of spaces where I'm not going to go super deep into this, but essentially you were expected and taught to sell one program. And I was a part of a container where it was actually a requirement to have one signature offer, and you were not permitted to create another offer during the duration of that container. So, again, I'm not going to go super deep into this, but I put myself in a box by listening to rules. I put myself in a box when I allowed myself to be told what to do in my business. This is where I really started taking full responsibility for everything. Because it's never about the mentor, it's who you choose, it's who you choose to invest in, right? Which is why I'm so clear about like anyone who enters my world, you're not here to pull from my magic. I'm not here to tell you what to do. You are the source. I'm just guiding you back to yourself. You are the magic. I'm guiding you back to your own magic. That's the way that we do mentorship in my world. I'm not here to create a hierarchy. There is no higher and lower. We are equals, right? It's your power and my power. And that is the way that I believe mentorship should be. And even on the application for my mastermind, it's like, you are not here to pull from my magic. Do you understand this? How does this make you feel? Right? That really gets me a good sense of like who's entering my world because I'm not your guru. Okay. Like I am here to guide you back to yourself and building a strong relationship with yourself. I'm not here to tell you how you should run your business ever. I never tell my clients what to price their offers and what they should build next. What I will do though is channel from their higher self. What is optimal and aligned for them? Not me, Tiffany, or even based on my experience, but what I'm getting intuitively for them from the spirit of their business and or their higher self. That's the way that I coach. And that's what you get when you're coaching with me. Okay. So I mean, this all comes full circle, but I was in that space where I was like, oh my gosh, I can only do one offer. Okay. Again, I still had like the tendencies of like people pleasing and wanting to be a good student and wanting to do it right and like wanting to find the right way of doing things. And this had worked for so many people. So I was like, okay, this is what I'm doing. I even remember like, and I loved BAA. I loved it. I was so happy with it. It was doing well, right? But I was also feeling the intuitive nudge to create mini courses and master classes and low ticket events and other programs and other things in my product suite. I remember one Christmas, I put together this holiday masterclass bundle on sales and manifestation and client attraction. And I took it down because I felt like I was doing something wrong and I wanted to follow the rules and stick to one offer. And that makes me like so sad to even think that I felt like I needed to do that because I felt like there was some right way that I wanted to follow because I wanted so badly for my business to be successful. And here's another thing, and I'll get into this a little more on Tuesday, but when I started to wobble in my conviction, I leaned hard into strategy. And that was just the truth of it. When I was wobbly in my conviction and my confidence, I was trying to find some type of strategy that would tell me what to do. So here's the last checkpoint lesson for today. I didn't see this at the time, but I was using, like, in the beginning, I used the very strict masculine selling and overworking to box myself in. And then now that I had eradicated that, I was using this new way of doing business. Like, I was very in my flow, but I was also doing one thing, like, in one way. And I wasn't giving myself that permission to grow and expand in the way I really wanted to. And that energy was starting to leak into my sales because sales are also a reflection of how you're feeling in your business. So at one point, it was a big, bold move to launch the academy. It was a big, bold move to go all in when I didn't see the proof. It was a big, bold move to keep launching it. But then over time, it wasn't as big and bold of a move because I had done it and I'd calibrated to it. And I was getting accustomed to it. I was calibrating to that level of wealth. I was doing all of this work. So this was kind of the point where needed to like, in a way, renew my vows to my business and re-strengthen the relationship with my business and how I wanted to operate in my business that had nothing to do with rules. It had nothing to do with like what anyone else was telling me. It had nothing to do with how other people had done it. It was literally me creating and listening to my truest self, which is now work that I do with my high level mastermind, Magic Mind. And it was me listening to how I wanted to build and expand the business as we move forward into the next lesson that had nothing to do with anybody else. This actually sparked my massive sexual reclamation era where I realized I was in a box for so many years. And it was around the time that I was like tapping into pleasure and sensuality and looping that into my business. This is when people would like unfollow me like crazy. People told me they got so triggered that they unfollowed me and then followed me and then unfollowed me and they didn't like what I was doing, but they like couldn't stop watching because they feel the energy of what I was doing. It was like true fuck the rules era. I'm going to do whatever I want. I'm going to launch whatever I want. I'm going to sell whatever offers I want in whatever course I wanted to, like whatever way I wanted to. I was going to offer all these things. So I went like balls to the wall. I was like, whatever, I'm gonna do whatever I want. And at a certain point, I like reined it back in and I was like, okay, let's like really get clear on where I want this to go. And that's when I launched my mastermind, Magic Mind. It's when I started to create like mini courses like Aligned Client Playground, Divine Manifestation, which I remember being a really big deal for me because I was like, I was like teaching business, right? And here I was creating this course on manifestation. And so, but I just let myself do what felt really good for me. Right? Like I wanted to listen to my body. I wanted to listen to what felt aligned, and I did. And I stepped into that era. And that's what we're going to get into on call number 3, which is growing from 500K to 1 million. And we're going to talk about stacking monthly recurring revenue. We're going to talk about closing BAA when it was actually making a ridiculous amount of money, a failed launch for a Magic Mind, why it happened, selling evergreen offers, selling a mastermind, and all of the triggers and clients leaving and building out my team, learning to be a leader, and shifting really into the movement. And that changed everything. And then that leads us into the rebrand reveal, which is on the 4th of September. So this checkpoint lesson, just to like wrap us all up, was like I really recognized, where I was falling into. I want the permission, I want the validation, I want someone to tell me that this is the right way of doing things. And I really learned to source that. That was my lesson, honestly, from like 2020 to like 2023, was like, stop looking at the rules, stop looking at the rules, stop asking for what is right. Stop trying to do it in the way other people are doing it. Listen to yourself. Listen to yourself. It like broke me. It was like lesson after lesson after lesson, like high cash months. And then it would come down because I would like ride the wave, but then I wouldn't let myself get to the next evolution. And the only way the universe could really teach me was like wiping out sales. And then I'd be like, what's happening? And then I'd be like, oh, I'm not aligned anymore. Here's how I need to shift. And not aligned doesn't always mean like throw out your offer, get rid of the clients, change your like, it doesn't have to be like burn it all down. Like, it doesn't need to be like that at all. It really just gets to be like a checkpoint, right? Where like you're having a relationship, you're building a relationship with the spirit of your business, and you're going, okay, something needs to shift here. What do I want to do? What do I want this to look like? What do I need to tweak? What needs to shift? Is there something that needs to be released? If not, if I'm not getting rid of something, how do I modify it? How do I shift it? How do I play with it so that I feel more expansive? Right? This was me giving myself the permission to do that during this time. And it led into my next massive scale from 500,000 to a million. And especially after this point, BAA picked up again. It was going so well all the way up until I released it. And I'll talk about why I released it, when I started getting those nudges, what I did, how things like I had like no new sales after that for a couple months, and all of the thoughts and identity that came through during that time period, hitting $1 million. And then that leads us into the rebrand. So lots of incredible things happening. I am going to end us here for today. Thank you so much for being here. DM me membership. Okay. I'm officially launching the broadcast membership next Thursday. And I just opened up the Telegram space, so I'm just starting, like I'm planning out the first couple drops that are gonna go into that space, and it's gonna be so good because everyone who's jumping in early gets some exclusive behind the scenes during this really pivotal time in my business. And I'm dropping some really juicy lessons, and it's a really beautiful space. We've got some incredible people in there, and I'm really, really, really excited for it. So the membership is here, the graphic is here. We just opened up the space, so this is the perfect time to jump in. This is a broadcast channel. I am the type of person who my channels and my best wisdom comes through speaking. Like sometimes when I'm processing my emotions and I'm trying to make sense of what's happening, I'll literally record private voice notes to myself and like just like keep them for myself, because this is the way that I chant. Like I literally am an open channel through audio, right? I love writing as well. I've always been a writer, but there's something about my voice that gets extremely activated when I am sharing, channeling. Also, when I'm teaching, this membership is strategic trainings that you can go and implement in your business right away on sales, messaging, social media, right? Like my bread and butter is like I mainly sell through Instagram stories and I close in the DMs. Like that's essentially how I've built my business. I don't do sales calls. I don't do like, I'm not running ads. Like I sell through my stories, and people reach out to me in the DMs, we close in the DMs, right? So that's really what I'm teaching, like on the sales aspect, is like social media, having clients that come to you that are like, take my money, let's go. Like I literally have clients telling me like, take my money. How can I pay you? How can I get inside this room ASAP? And that's purely through my messaging. I don't do sales calls. Like I have launched cohorts and periods, but people jump into my world all throughout the year. And that's really how I've built a 7-figure business. So this membership, the strategies, it's going to be 3 parts, but the strategy, which is the first part, is very like tangible messaging, sales, sales magnetism, attracting people into your world, selling on stories, closing in the DMs, articulating what you do so that your people are like, oh, that's my person. That's what I want to teach you. Because this is for visionary CEOs, leaders, coaches, mentors that are connected to their work from the heart, right? Like very heart centered. You're doing it in a way that's aligned. You don't want it if it's not aligned, right? So we're teaching messaging, articulation, sales, like bringing in your people in a way that is aligned for you. So those are the strategic trainings. You're also getting activation, like soul activations and riffs. Okay, so this is where I'm dropping in with like on fire. This just dropped in hot off the press, like activated. This is like getting you in that state of power where you go and take massive action in your business. This is where you go and you feel so fired up. You remind yourself who you are. The way you feel, the state that you're in makes a difference when you're operating in your business. So these are activations that bring you back to who you are, personal power, wealth energetics, sales energetics, like leadership, higher consciousness activations that are here to literally set you on fire so you can go and take massive action and you know what action to take. 'Cause I'm also dropping in with those strategic trainings. Okay. And then the third part is the behind the scenes. Like I am sharing, you don't often get to see beyond what people share through their marketing, right? You don't actually get to see and through celebrations and big numbers, but it's like, what are you doing behind the scenes? What are you selling and what are you moving through and what does that look like? So I'm also using this space to share like exclusive behind the scenes of my business that I'm not sharing anywhere else from these big leaps, these identity lessons, especially as we're going through a big rebrand. Like this is really like the behind the scenes of a seven-figure business and how I am navigating not just in business, but also in life as a single mom. So you'll get some of those exclusive behind the scenes as well. So this is all going to be hosted on Telegram through this broadcast space. However, because you're a part of this membership, you also get access to a list, like my entire library of micro programs. So masterclasses, all future micro programs. That's really the direction I'm moving into is I'm not creating any more like, no, never say never. But my intention is not to create like big, massive academies and courses, right? Like maybe I'll create another one at some point in the future, but I'm moving towards creating like more micro programs. Like the first one that's coming into the space is on messaging and how I intentionally use messaging to articulate exactly what it is that I do and my transformation, especially in the intangibles that speaks to the right person who values. Remember what I said earlier, people pay when they see the value. So how can you articulate the value instead of just saying, live your best life and be happy and make money? It's like, how can you actually articulate the weight of what it is that you do through your messaging? Okay, that is an extremely important skill that I think a lot of people haven't studied. And I really think that's like one of the main things that I am an expert at is messaging. Like I will post on my stories, I will post on my feed. That's pretty much it. And then people are like, yep, I'm ready to pay $15,000 to join your mastermind. I'm ready to pay $5,000 and be inside BAA. Like this is something I've mastered over the years, and I'm teaching you all the messaging secrets inside this membership. So micro programs, another micro program I'm doing is going to be selling on stories. So like slide by slide and teaching you like the intent behind what I do, the energy, the identity, the strategic messaging, how I use visual storytelling to sell on my stories, especially during launches, but also like I said earlier, if you're just selling a program that's evergreen, or if you're selling one-on-ones, like you can sell on your stories anytime, every day, right? And it doesn't have to be something that's exhausting or where you're trying to figure out like what's the right word and how do I do it in a way that makes sense. Like it can be simple and fun and bring in tons of money. And you don't always have to show your face or talk on video either. So I have a lot to share around selling on stories. I cannot believe that I have not done a program on this. So that's what you also get inside the membership. So the membership has the Telegram space that we just opened, like literally just opened the doors, and you're going to have audio drops in there. And then you also get access to these micro programs that I'm going to be creating that you get access to on messaging, selling on stories, launching, stacking recurring revenue, attracting aligned clients, like everything that you want to know on building and scaling your business to multi-six, seven figures and beyond through the lens of higher consciousness, which means you are receiving and making decisions and discerning what's optimal for you. I never will teach you a one size fits all strategy. I will never teach you, this is the way, do this. You are going to use your discernment and learn how to listen. I'm going to teach you how to do this inside the membership, how to discern your higher self, what is optimal for you, and then making decisions and being guided based on that. That is how we're running this membership space, okay? It's going to be guided from your own magic for what is optimal for you. The movement, the legacy that you're creating, the business you're creating, it's never been done before. So why would you look to me or to anyone else for the blueprint when the blueprint is you, your higher self, and the spirit of your business and your intuition guiding you forward? And my job is to bring you into listening, expanding to receive from them, and then going to take action. Because when you're aligned, any strategy will work. And here I am giving you like strategy after strategy that you can go and implement and make money and see sales right away come into your bank account, which is what your business needs to flourish. But it also needs to be from that connection to higher consciousness and your aligned truest self, because that's what creates sustainable results. That's what we're doing inside this membership. Okay, I love you all. Thank you so much for being here. This is so much fun for me. Inside day 3, we're going to continue on. That's next Tuesday. And the next Thursday, I am revealing the rebrand and I'm going to be launching the membership officially. So if you jump in now, you have a bonus and you also get early bird pricing. After next Thursday, the price is going to go up. So if you're curious about jumping into the membership, this is the time to do so while we're still in early bird pricing before the official launch. So just DM me membership. You can do it on Telegram or Instagram, doesn't matter. DM me membership and I will get you in. I'll send you all of the details and you can feel into if it's a good fit for you. Okay. All right. Mwah. I love you all. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you next Tuesday. Bye.